Hey, what's up, you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of Van Helsing on Syfy. This week we've seen Season 1, Episode 8, which was called Little Thing. And I'm actually getting the review out on time for once. I actually got out of work before tonight's episode, so I was able to watch the actual first airing of the one from tonight. So that's nice. That's a nice change of pace. So I like this episode. I don't think it was one of the best of the season, but it was definitely a very different episode, and we also got a bit of a payoff with something that was looked into quite a few episodes ago now. It starts off with Rebecca. She's basically showing Sheema this example of what she could have really if she just completely gives in and just abides by what Rebecca wants her to do, just completely obeys her and things like that, and follows along the path that Rebecca wants for her, which we still don't fully know all the details of. But again, as I talk about pretty much every week with Rebecca, I think she does have this really weird interest in humans, or especially Sheema, at least. I don't know if it's a good thing necessarily. It still feels very twisted, very creepy and such when she goes about it like that. But she definitely does have a different sort of interest with Sheema, for sure. And we kind of find out that basically she might want Sheema to be like a vessel, as she puts it. Because we see this pregnant woman, she gives birth and it doesn't really come out, perfectly, and Rebecca doesn't like that, and she has her mother taken off to be basically a blood bag, or just like a feeding body or something like that. So I don't know if the plan is to get Sheema pregnant and see if as like a guinea pig, really. I don't know, because as Rebecca says, even her being an ancient, she can't procreate, she can't do anything like that yet. Even if she can, turn others into what she is, she can't make something of her own, just, purely. So I don't know if it's something like that or what, but, it's definitely interesting, definitely weird for sure. I do think Rebecca is my favorite villain on the show so far. I know we haven't seen a lot of Dimitri yet. I still feel like Dimitri is probably the overarching main antagonist of the show, but I find Rebecca to be the most compelling, honestly. Julius is a different, he's a good sort of brute type of villain, but I think Rebecca is definitely the most, interesting as far as how her mind works and stuff like that. And now we have the group on the road, and they're heading to this base Axel used to, be stationed at, and of course John disagrees with him. He doesn't want to go. They hear these church bells. They figure they should head that way and join up with whatever people they can find. And it surprised me a little bit that John would actually want to go about something like that, because he is so gung-ho and so mistrusting of other people, in the bunker and such. So it sort of feels a little bit weird that he would actually be interested in gathering as many people as they can, but again, it's different circumstances now, different rules, I guess. Although maybe it's tied into what we find out about him at the end of the episode, supposedly, anyway. And before we get into more details of what actually happened out on the road, this episode did feel very different compared to the others. Of course, since the beginning, our characters have been just completely in the bunker, nothing else. But now we see them on the road. It does feel like a different show. If you watch some of the behind-the-scenes stuff on the Syfy channel, or the Syfy YouTube channel, they were describing it that way, and it does feel very different. It feels like the show is going in a different direction now, or at least that one landmark of Season 1 has been passed at this point, I think. And we also know that Doc's sister is apparently at the base as well, so she has her motivation to go along with Axel's idea to head there. They find the base. It is abandoned. They can't take their vehicle inside. Suddenly I'm forgetting what the name is of the vehicle. I feel bad. Just give me a second, guys. I have to get this name down, so that's why I'm going to look it back up. Anyway. Again, having Facebook open isn't really a good thing. But yeah, so let me look this up if I can. Excuse me. Okay, I forget the name Axel had for the vehicle, but you know, the souped up ambulance and such. They can't drive that into the base because there are all these parked military vehicles blocking the way. So they head in, and we see Mohamad. He's on the road, actually not too far behind him. He was riding a bike some of the way, but that of course gets screwed up. And Sam had actually left a little message for Mohamad on the building. I had painted Mohamad with an arrow showing which direction to go, the same one they went. It looked like Mohamad missed it though. I thought he'd see it, but it didn't look like he did. I'm not sure though. But he heads towards the church bells, and let's see. And Mohamad had a pretty good action sequence or a fight scene in this episode. Where he comes across these two vamps, trying to get this guy, this corpse who is hanging in the trees and such. And Mohamad, he takes out both the vampires pretty easily. He gets as close to him as he can and just has some pretty good moves with the machete or whatever he does have. So that's pretty cool. They do find this area in the settlement or the base to sleep. And we see that Vanessa's wound, of course, where the poison tooth was in previously, has mostly healed. She's at least not feeling as much of the pain when she bends her knee anymore, so that's good. And then we see, as our group actually gets a chance to settle down just a little bit, John sort of makes fun of Flesh. They're still a little bit on edge with each other. And he calls him creepy after Flesh just asks him to say what's on his mind, And Susan laughs. Her and John seem to be getting along fairly well, and it started to weird me out a little bit. But more on that in a few minutes. Doc and Vanessa also find Doc's sister's room, and she sees that her sister's responsibilities, or where her sister's work actually involved, wasn't all that she thought it was. Because when they're talking on the video chat, it was only angled to the regular office space of the room, and we see all these little cages everywhere else. So her sister is obviously involved with some kind of shadier parts of what was going on for sure, so that's pretty interesting. And then we have the group. They run to this other survivor. We find out he's supposedly part of the resistance apparently, and they're separated, and he eventually found his way there. Axel, he ends up taking the group to this other bunker called the farm, and he had been there before as well. And while I understand, makes sense in the story for them to find anything like Ken and Axel, probably does have at least a couple places mapped out for these types of situations. I just kind of wish they were on the road a little bit longer, instead of just immediately finding another place to stay at. I just like the open world feel of it all. It gives it a better edginess to it if they're just out in the opens. I don't know. Maybe it's The Walking Dead with me talking. Who knows? But then again, The Walking Dead. With a group there, you're gonna eventually find some place they try to defend. Makes sense. But I just like the lack of safety on the open road. It's exciting. And the survivor they find, he ends up using this dynamite, which doesn't work, and then the grenade to blow the door open. This ends up creating, a bit of rubble, and it ends up trapping him on the inside, blocking the door, the only way out. But we do find a food stash on the inside as well as a alcohol supply. Axel also looks into this quarantine room, how there's only one way in and out of that, so he wonders what they're actually doing there. Group starts drinking and eating, and again, it's different to see the group actually having a chance to relax and be a little bit lighter with each other to an extent anyway. Sam's singing, which is pretty funny. John and Susan, they start getting pretty chummy with one another. We see John whispering in her ear and such, and they go off together, sort of drunkenly walking down the halls. Then they start kissing, and it was at that point anyway consensual. But then John, he sort of starts advancing himself a little bit further, and Susan sort of pushes him off, says no. She starts screaming. John tries to stop her from screaming. That's when the group comes rushing, and Vanessa just knocks John flat out, or flat on his ass. That was pretty awesome. She has one hell of a punch, man. But yeah, and of course, John argues that it was, all consensual, that, they had went there together, and she kissed him as well. She kissed back and such. And he wasn't lying about that part. She did sort of, kiss him back and such, which, probably furthered his advances or made him a little bit more confident with what he was doing. But certainly, they were both drunk, and, she only came to her senses when John was, sort of just moving a little bit further than she was probably wanting at that point. And then this leads to a discovery, or accusations from the group that he was probably the serial killer as well. They find the fingers in his bag. It does seem like a bit of a setup, really. I don't think it could have been Susan who's the killer, because I feel like they were looking into it before she was integrated into the group, right? But it does feel like a bit of a setup. It does feel like someone might have framed John, but certainly he doesn't make himself look very good here, and it probably could have been him. Let's see. But John makes himself look even worse when he breaks a bottle and takes Susan hostage, and I think Axel could have probably gotten the shot on John if he wanted to, but he probably just didn't want to put him down necessarily. But it's Vanessa who pulls a knife out of her boot and throws it and kills John. We see the death of John here. So that was a pretty surprising way to end the episode. I didn't really see all that being resolved at this point. Like I said, it did feel like a setup. So it might not be John, but at the same time, the way he acted before and after, it's definitely not doing him any favors. So it easily could have been. But yeah, overall, I really like this episode. Not one of my favorites of the season, but still a good one. Very different, like I said. I'm giving this one at least an 8.4, 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you guys thought about the episode. I hope you guys are still enjoying the show, because it's very good. I'm still heavily enjoying it. Can't believe how much I'm into it already. Again, just the whole cast and crew are awesome. If you interact with them on Twitter, they're very connected to their fans. It's really cool. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. You can like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.